What up, guys? We're back out here. I feel like crap. My vertigo's been kind of on me for the last couple weeks, and it's not as bad as it was last year, but it's definitely been an issue the last couple weeks, so it's kind of slowed me down on doing much anything out in the shop. So we're going to do something a little different today. I'm going to show you how I prep my little stock bottom end junkyard motors. On here on the stand, a buddy of mine brought down. This thing looks like a roach. Actually had it together. Something happened, brought it down. So I'm gonna, like, it was a new stock bottom end rebuild he was doing, and it had issues. So he called me. He's like, look, I need to just have you go through this thing and make it right. He's like, mine didn't live. So he brought it to me, and I was like, dude, this thing looks like crap. He's like, well, yeah, it's a stock motor. Of course it does. But I'm gonna show you what I do to prep these things and how to make them look good, you know? Doesn't take a lot of work, doesn't take a lot of time. You just need a couple little tools and a little bit of patience, and you can make these things look pretty good. So we're gonna show you what this thing looks like. Here's your normal Gen 3 6-liter. As you can tell, it's all pretty nasty. Till the bores have just, you know, kind of been touched up. We're gonna make those look a lot better. It did get decked when he was putting it together. So the deck surface looks pretty good. I'll probably just razor blade it to get some of the head gasket coating off of them, and then those will be good to go. But yeah, you know, it's like all these little pads for the brackets, and just everything kind of looks like crap. All the bolts and everything are just nasty. So like I said, we're gonna spend a little bit of time on this, and we're gonna show you what this thing looks like when I get done with it, and you know what it can look like, so you don't have to have, you know, if just because it's a junkyard build doesn't mean it has to look like it came out of the junkyard. But anyways, let's get this thing outside. We're gonna throw some engine degreaser on it, fire up the pressure washer. All right, so we got the pressure washer hooked up. We got her out here in the sunlight, and as you can tell, this thing is gross out here in the sunlight. And we're gonna do something that I normally tell people not to do. Whizzy disc. The famous Rolock disc and angle grinder. I'm not gonna get super carried away. I just wanna knock the rust off this stuff. All these flat machine surfaces, we're just gonna knock all this little rust scale off of it. And man, that thing's gross. But yeah, we're just gonna go around. We're gonna knock all the rust off this stuff with the angle grinder, and then we're gonna hit it with some degreaser, and then we'll pressure wash it. And yeah, I'll show you that whenever we get to it. See there, you know, I didn't get super carried away. This one could use a little bit more, you know, but you can obviously still see the machining marks where they machine down the casting. I just want to knock the rust off of it, just barely touch them, and I don't put any pressure on the angle grinder. As you can tell there, like it's not even like super worn or nothing. Like I barely touch it, but I just want to knock the scale off of it. And you know, the front of it looks pretty good. Normally I would longboard sand it, but I don't think I'm gonna do that on this one. But yeah, it's got new bearings in it. They put new cam bearings in it and stuff. But now we're gonna we're gonna grab the, I've never tried this engine degreaser, but we're gonna give it a whirl. So we got her soaking. Air compressor is running in the background, making all kinds of racket. But we'll let this set up for a few minutes. We're gonna fire up the pressure washer and pressure wash this thing down. I need to pop this lift plate off the top of it so I can get down in there and degrease all that first too. But after that, I'll fire this up. We'll get the pressure washing on this thing. and then we'll blow dry it all, and hopefully be able to get it ready and prepped and all the above for assembly. All right, so I pressure washed that, and I didn't really like, you can see there's tons of grease still at the bottom of it. So that engine greaser, I let it set up for about 10 or 15 minutes, and it did not do a very good job. So got out the old super clean and a scrub brush. I'm gonna spray it down and do it the hard way. Washed, got it dried off, and then we broke out the old Van Sickle, satin black, and pretty much sprayed everything. You know, obviously that's black from the factory. And I didn't get carried away, obviously, in the bell housing area or nothing like that. But yeah, it looks pretty glossy now because it's wet. I'll let it tack a little bit more. I'll hit it with a little bit more paint. And then we'll go through and then we'll wipe off all these little flat spots that I just sanded with the angle grinder there. And then it'll just make it look a lot nicer when we go back together with it. That way, whenever he puts covers and everything on it, it'll look like a new engine, basically. That way it doesn't look like a pile of turds. You know, like I said, you can build a junkyard, you know, do like a junkyard poor man rebuild on it, but it doesn't mean it has to look like crap in the process. You know, like I said, just took a little elbow grease, some super clean, you know, a little sanding and some paint. You know, who said you can't put lipstick on a pig? Not where I'm from. So we got the put a little carb clean on a rag, and then just went through and wiped off all those little metal surfaces. So now that all looks good. You definitely want to try and do that when the paint's still a little tacky, because once it dries it's a little bit harder to get off. But yeah, I just take a little rag, wipe off all the surfaces that I don't want paint on, and man, now look at it. That thing looks like a new engine. Looks a lot better. So now we'll get it back in the shop, lube up the bores and stuff, wipe the decks off a little bit. Yeah, now we can let it dry. I blow dry it as best I could, and then I'll go back through and blow dry out all the holes, make sure there's nothing left in them whenever we go to start putting this thing back together. But yeah, we can get it in the shop, start putting bearings in it. We already know all the clearances and stuff were good. He checked all that. We're putting all the same bearings back in it and just been our connecting rod. And we got a new piston and a new rod to put in it. We'll have to measure we'll have to measure rod bearing clearance on that before we put that piston in, but everything else is good. Ring gaps are already set. So now it's just going to be pretty much just plug and play, bolt everything back together. We cleaned up all these plugs. Didn't take much effort. Just kind of put them in the vise, hit them with the wire wheel. Now they look substantially better. And now we can put some sealer on them and throw them inside the engine here. Permatex thread sealant, PTFE. I'll put some on the threads, and then once they tighten up, these have crush washers on them. You can see actually those have some on it anyways. That's what I use on all of them. I've never had one leak, knock on wood. Knock on wood. But yeah, we're gonna throw some sealer on these and get these tossed in the motor and torque them down, and then we'll mark them, because I like to mark all the bolts that I personally tighten with a paint marker. So we'll throw some sealer on these and get them put in. Nice and snug. Sealer's kind of coming out the edge there. And now that I got that one tight, we'll hit it with a paint marker. That way I know that one has been tightened. All right, now we'll do the other ones and we'll get the rest of them in. We'll keep going on. All right, so we got the other plugs in. Got them marked, that one, and then that one. The barbell is back in. I will have to get a new freeze plug for that front plug there. But overall, she's looking pretty good. Probably go through, take some acetone, clean up all the main caps and the bolts. I'll probably wash all those and make sure they're nice, clean, and dry. That way I can put ARP lube on them. I use ARP lube on the mains and rod bolts and stuff when I torque them. I'm never having an issue doing that. I know it's specifically for ARP bolts and stuff, but I use it anyways. I like it better than using motor oil. Like I said, we'll get the crank washed. That's not the crank. That's the crank. I need to get it washed, cleaned. I'll probably end up taking it to work tomorrow. And I was gonna pressure wash it out in the driveway, but since it had a failure, this is the rod that came out of it. Since it had a rod failure and got some metal in it, it's probably best to take that to work and get it washed in an ultrasonic tank. And I might do the caps and everything else as well, just to be safe. Then we can go start putting the crank back in it, get that all torqued down, and then we'll go through and we'll start getting all the rods re-cleaned. I took them to work, washed them, everything's good. Got those cleaned up. This is the old one that we're putting in it. I gotta clean off the top of it because there's some carbon. But yeah, got those all washed. Rings and everything are ready to go. I do gotta pull the rings off that bent one and throw on that new one, and then we should be good to go. This isn't gonna be how to build an LS engine video. This is pretty much how to make an LS junkyard motor look this good. So just a couple little tips and kind of show you how I do some of these stock bottom end cheap driveway built engines, how I make them look good. And obviously there's a lot that goes into making them run good as well, but the LS engine is pretty relentless. These things are pretty forgiving. So, but overall looks pretty good. Turned out really good. I am super pumped. I'll feel a lot better giving an engine back to a person that looks this good rather than what it looked like when it showed up. But anyways, that's gonna do it for me today, guys. Like I said, my vertigo's been kind of acting up, so I'm a little woozy today, and I'm not getting too carried away with stuff in the shop just because I don't feel very well. But I am gonna try and get this video out today, so don't forget, comment, like, subscribe. Please go subscribe. Go subscribe. Thanks for watching. Keep on along. See you guys on the next one.